Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Zappsec Modernization Series. My name is Carl Schneider, Vice President at Zappsec, and I'm joined by Anup Tuppad, who is our Senior Architect, Network Architect. So, Anup, here's something I've been noticing in every migration business case that I review. There's beautiful target state savings, the year two cost reduction projections that make the CFO smile, right? The ROI models that look bulletproof, but every single one of them has the same blind spot.
Let me guess the blind spot. It's the dual run period.
Exactly. It's the 12 to
Yeah.
18 months where you're paying for both networks simultaneously, right? Nobody budgets for it, nobody models it, and it's where 35% of the total migration cost disappears.
Yeah, agreed. And it makes sense why it gets missed, right? And the business case is built around the destination, I believe. And here's the outcome. Here is what the new network will cost, and here are the savings. That math is correct, but what it leaves out is the journey, right? And the period between when you start paying for the new one, new architecture, and when you stop paying for the old one. The gap is not a rounding error. It is the single largest, I would say, unmolded cost in enterprise network migration right now.
Exactly. Because as we see it on the average, that dual run overlap is 18 months long. And during that window, you've got two times the cost on licensing, staffing, and you also have two times the security surface.
Right.
35% of the total migration spend hidden in costs that were never in the original business case. All right, so let's talk about, what actually doubles. So walk me through the different pieces of this doubling because most CIOs would say, sure, there's some overlap, but it's manageable.
Yeah, there's six things here, Carl. They compound, right? And most organizations only anticipate one or two. First would be licensing, like both vendors billing simultaneously. We have maintenance contracts, we have support agreements, software subscriptions, all running in parallel for 12 to 18 months. The business case assumes that you turn off the old network, when you turn on the new one. That's not how migration works.
Right, I agree. But what about the people involved, the resources?
Yeah, this comes in the second one, the staffing, right? Like engineers or senior engineers like me are maintaining two architectures, two troubleshooting methodologies, and we have two monitoring platforms. And this is where the productivity drops roughly around 40% during the overlap because the context switching between legacy and the new is genuinely exhausting. And I can tell you as a senior engineer, I've worked with these dual migrations and the people who know the old network are the same people who built the new one.
Yeah, I totally understand that duality is painful. What about the
Yeah.
security implications of two different environments?
I would say this is the third one where you have doubled your attack surface, the two patching cycles, two vulnerability management programs, two compliance audit scopes. The CISO inherits a risk from both environments and the legacy network, the one you are deprioritizing, is the one most likely to have unpatched vulnerabilities.
And I suppose there's going to be some glue between these two environments, right?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's where the fourth one comes in is the integration tax, the translation layers, the policy synchronization, routing redistributions we have NAT boundaries, the architecture duct tape that consumes engineering hours is meant for the new build, not to have the dual run problems here.
Right, right. And I suppose compliance would be a big concern here as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. The auditors evaluate both environments, document doubles, control evidence doubles, and the organization reports 60 to 80% increase in audit costs during the dual run.
Ouch, that's rough. So what
Yeah.
about the sixth and final strategy here?
That would be opportunity cost. Every month of dual run, your engineering capacity is consumed by maintenance instead of innovation. You're paying a senior architect like me just to babysit for the legacy infrastructure instead of building a competitive advantage. That does not show up on any spreadsheet, right? But it is the cost that hurts the longest.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely one you'd want to reduce. All right, so
Yeah.
let's talk about how we can reduce this. How can we compress the migration itself so it's not so expensive? What compresses that window?
The three things. The first thing would be parallel pod delivery. The three concurrent migration streams instead of sequential side by side. Compression compresses an 18-month overlap to 8 to 12 months. We have proved this across 107 sites in 24 countries already with a 40% faster than sequential, right? Every month, you compress, eliminate a month of dual licensing, dual staffing, and dual security surface.
Yeah, every month counts. Okay, so what's the second strategy for compression?
Yeah, this we have discussed in our previous videos as well, and this is the phase cutover where we decommission the legacy per site, not per phase. And as each site migrates, cutover happens, and the stop legacy licensing immediately, and monthly cost, adds to the reduction of cost reduction of milestones, and finance gets a real-time visibility into spend curve here.
Oh, that's real-time visibility is definitely helpful. So what's the third point? You mentioned there's three.
Yeah, the third one would be the model, the dual run costs before you go to the board, maps the licensing overlap by vendor and plans staff capacity and build a board ready timeline that shows when dual run costs peak and when they decline. And we
Hmm.
can also include when they reach zero, right? The CIO who presents this has a credible business case rather than the CIO who does not has a crisis, who does not has a crisis at month six, right?
Right, right. Completely avoidable crisis at that. Okay,
Yeah.
so this slide is the execution story in one big picture. So let's walk through it.
So basically the three bands which is showing up here. The top band is where migration starts, month 1 through 3, both networks are running. We have, double licensing, compliance overlap, opportunity cost, all the costs we just walked through above. These are all warning signs everywhere. This is the expensive reality of a dual run at the beginning. And the middle band is where compression happens like month 4 through month 8. The three parallel pods, pod A, pod B, and pod C, for example, migrating sites concurrently, legacy billing getting crossed out as sites cut over. The old network is shrinking and the new spinal leaf is growing, and engineers are moving from maintenance to the new build. And the bottom band is the outcome from month 9 to month 10. Single network, single billing. SDN is controlling all your network and running the show. Single audit scope, and I can all say is one team, one architecture, and one operating model. That is the destination we should be looking at. And you get there in 10 months instead of 18 months because of you compressed instead of crawled, right?
Right, right. I mean, even every month you shave off is a benefit. So even if you only get to
Right.
12 or 13 months instead of 18,
Mhm.
that's still a big savings. All right, but this is the side I like to show CIOs who are going through this planning process because they always tell me their business case is airtight. But what the board approved is like the tip of the iceberg, the budgeted migration costs, the hardware, the install, the vendor fees, what they were planning to get to. That's what's above the waterline.
Yeah, yeah. This is a good representation of what we talked about. Below the surface is everything we discussed: double licensing, double staffing, double security surface, integration tax, compliance overlap, and opportunity cost. These are the six layers of the cost that were never in the original business case, and 35% of the total spend is invisible at the time of approval. That is the tip of the iceberg. And you can see what the board approved and what the project actually is costing.
Mm. Yeah, so when a CIO says, well, if I add dual run costs, the board will think the project is more expensive. What would you say to that, Anup?
I would say it's already that expensive. You are just choosing whether to discover it at the approval or at month 6. The CIO who says, iceberg, who shows the iceberg upfront and gets the right budget at the time of the approval is very good. That rather than the CIO who gets in a crisis on the conversation on month 4 and then everything goes back to zero, right?
Yeah, yeah, totally. And also, like, we don't want a CIO to present it as an additional cost because it's not. You present it as a cost you're actively compressing. Like, say,
Mhm.
hey, we've identified $2 million in dual run exposure, but here's the plan that reduces it to 1.2 million. That's a good CFO conversation.
Definitely, and that math works.
Right, because every migration has a dual run period.
Yeah, and the only question is whether you planned for it or you discovered it.
Right, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely plan for it.
and compress it as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, and bring the board a number they can trust. Absolutely. Good job. All
Definitely.
right, thanks,
Yeah.
Anup. All right, everyone, thanks for watching. Don't forget, Zappsec helps companies modernize their infrastructure to maximize ROI and minimize threats. We do infrastructure modernization every day. We've been there, we've done that. If any of this resonates with you, we'd welcome a conversation on how to bring this sort of transformation to your organization. Visit zapsec.com or reach out to Anup or myself directly. Our email addresses are visible at the beginning of the video.